Welcome back to another installment of last week's madness. This week's episode is going to be a little bit more organized. Instead of jumping around all over the place, going from something that's insane to something that's stupid, back to something that's insane, I'm going to start off with the insane things and finish off with the stupid things. But it might all be in vain because after all the insane things are stupid and all the stupid things are insane. Because nowadays, that's just how things work. So without further introductions, let's start off with this article from Business Insider titled, "Fluoridated water during pregnancy may be hurting kids' brains. You still don't need to start drinking bottled water." Wow, what a fabulously insane title that is. Let's look into the article to see if the article is equally as insane. So the article has these bullet points. So the first one is a new study suggests that mothers who drink fluoridated water during pregnancy, which shows up in their urine, may be giving birth to kids who have slightly lower IQs. The findings held true in boys but not girls. Second bullet point is, the American Academy of Pediatrics still recommends that kids drink fluoridated tap water because it helps prevent many cavities. See, this is what boggles my mind, is that these kids who they want to be drinking fluoridated water, and it's amazing, because they have baby water, and the only thing that differentiates baby water from regular water is that it has added fluoride to it. Why are they so concerned about cavities in babies when we all know that we have baby teeth that we lose and are then replaced by adult teeth? Makes no sense to me. But, then again, I'm just some idiot on YouTube. The third bullet point is, in the US, places with fluoridated water tend to have fewer problems with tooth decay. Okay. Fluoride in toothpaste and dental treatments also work, but you have to brush your teeth consistently and go to the dentist, which not everybody does. So for the sake of brevity, because this is a rather long article, I'm only going to be reading the important parts. So I'm going to start off from here. There is compelling new evidence that fluoride delivered through tap water may not be the safest kind. A study of 512 Canadian mothers and their children, published in the journal JAMA Pediatrics earlier this week, suggests that drinking fluoridated water during pregnancy could damage kids' brains. In the study, boys between the ages of 3 and 4 years old, whose mothers drank fluoridated water, had slightly lower IQs, about 4.5 points lower, a small but noticeable difference when you consider that the average IQ score is around 100 points. But public health experts don't suggest switching to bottled water just yet. That's because a single study should never overturn years of scientific consensus about the health benefits of fluoridated water. Don't worry, this article is going somewhere, but before I get to where it's going, I want to touch upon this little gem that's mentioned in the article. Some of the easiest ways to ensure brain health in kids, Transandi, which is the bitch who's talking in the article, Transandi said, are to make sure there's enough fresh air circulating through your home, reduce your family's exposure to pesticides, and make sure your kids are getting enough iodine in their diet through foods like iodized salt, seafood, and dairy. So I like how this article acknowledges that pesticides are not good for kids' brain health. Just a little gem I had to mention. So now moving on to this next part of the article. The cavity preventer is now added to about 3/4 of US taps. However, the dose of fluoride is important. Too much of the mineral can cause brown pitted spots on kids' teeth, a condition called fluorosis. As recently as 2015, recommendations for fluoride concentration in US drinking water were lowered to 0.7 milligrams per liter. There have been plenty of conspiracy theories lobbed at fluoridated water over the years, including the idea that fluoridation is a plot by the government to control our minds. It's not, and that Nazis put fluoride in the water they served in World War II concentration camps. Again, no. So I have to just comment on a couple of things here. So before, when I mentioned the fact that fluoride lowered the IQ of kids whose mothers drank fluoridated water, it doesn't really talk about how much fluoride was in their water. And it also doesn't look at it long term. It doesn't look at the fact that kids are then exposed to fluoride as they develop. And yes, our brains develop until we're in our late 20s, so a life of consuming fluoride does have the potential to further lower your IQ. So if this article is talking about fluoride lowering our IQ, and then they're saying that conspiracy theorists claim that fluoride is a plot by the government to control our minds, are they not actually proving those conspiracy theories correct in some way or form? Does not lowering our IQ make it easier for our minds to be controlled? Oh, who am I kidding? I'm just doing that crazy thing called critical thinking. Let's just move on and totally ignore it so that we don't become anything like these awful conspiracy theorists that we hear so much negative things about. So now here comes the really wild part of the article. After the article spent all of this time talking about how fluoridated water helps prevent cavities, it then says this: fluoridated water may not be the best way to prevent cavities. This new study, if further evidence supports it, may give more scientific weight to the idea that fluoridated water is not the best route to prevent cavities. Fluoridated water enters the body and the bloodstream orally, whereas most toothpaste and fluoride treatments given at the dentist are spit back out. These more topical routes for fluoride administration are, quote, the best route for getting fluoride to the teeth, Transandi said. No kidding, it does not take a rocket scientist to figure that one out. So then the article decides to quote another scientist. This guy, Stephen Peckham, a professor of health policy at the University of Kent, wrote similarly with his co-author that artificial water fluoridation is not necessarily the most economical, effective, or affordable way to deliver fluoride to the teeth in the 21st century, in a widely cited 2014 study. Well, of course it's not the most economical, effective, or affordable way to deliver fluoride to the teeth in the 21st century. They're not putting fluoride in the water for our teeth health, okay? They're putting it there as a covert way to dumb down the population. Now here's where things get really insane, when the article says, fluoride's benefits and risk are still being studied. Of course, it then goes on to say just a couple of nonsense, just like, oh, that this isn't going to be the last word, that they're still going to study it more, and that it wasn't long ago where lead exposure was thought to not be harmful to developing brains, and the idea that lead exposure was harmful to developing brains was bitterly contested in the 1980s and 1990s. It goes on to say all this, but to me it's shocking that they admit that the benefits and risk of fluoride are still being studied. The US government is exposing hundreds of millions of people to fluoride, and they don't even know all of the risk associated with it. It's as if once they noticed one positive thing about fluoride, they decided to throw it in the water and fixate on that one positive thing. Of course, we're not all stupid. We all know that the government is much smarter than that the government had very good knowledge of both the positive and the negative effects of fluoride, and they put it in the water for the negative effects, but then they ran this campaign that they were using it for the positive effects, and then they did everything they could to bury the knowledge of the negative effects. But whatever, I've spent way too much time on this story. The important thing to take away from this story is that it has been proven that fluoride does lower your IQ. So our next story has to do with the US military-industrial complex, and it comes from The Independent, and it is entitled, US Drone Shot Down Over Yemen. I don't know why they put a quote, or they put the scare quotes around shot down over Yemen. Anyway, the article goes on to say, this is not the first time a US drone has been shot down over the war-ravaged country. 2 months ago, the US military said that Iran-backed rebels had shot down a government-operated drone with assistance from Tehran. Wow, that's just incredible. Somehow blaming Iran on this. Gotta blame Iran. Something happens in a totally different country, blame Iran. What the fuck are our drones even doing over the skies of Yemen? We'll find out right now. US forces have been engaged in a sustained campaign against Yemen's Al-Qaeda branch known as Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, including launching sporadic drone and airstrikes against targets in the country. So we're bombing and killing people in Yemen with the excuse that they're an Al-Qaeda branch. Jesus fucking Christ, people. This is our government here, and this is precisely why it is a not legitimate government. It is a government creating war and chaos around the world. So, a separate official told CNN that the missiles involved was provided by Iran. The official added that the Trump administration will publicly criticize Iran for the incident. So, a separate official told CNN that the missile involved was provided by Iran. So Iran-backed rebels, somehow they know the missile was provided by Iran. But wait a second. The Houthis, however, claim that the rocket was developed locally. So the people who used the rocket actually said it was produced locally. Let's see what else it says. The rocket which hit it was developed locally and will be revealed soon at a press conference. Yahya Sarria, a Houthi military spokesman, said on Twitter Tuesday night. Wait a second. So these supposed Houthi rebels, they're allowed to have a Twitter, but Twitter will. Yeah, I'm not even gonna touch on that. You know what? Good for you guys. I'm glad you guys have a Twitter so that you can get your message out there, can circumnavigate the fake news network. So this pretty much wraps up this article. It's just I wanted to bring to people's attention that the U.S. is bombing in Yemen. We're using drones, and our drones are being shot down there, and we're blaming Iran, even though Iran has nothing to do with it. Because little articles like this end up popping up in the news later on. What was very warming in this article was the comment section. Fortunately, this news site actually has a comment section still. Nice to see the underdog winning, says one commenter. Another commenter says, good. It shouldn't have been there in the first place. Agreed. Another commenter said, lot of children lives saved there then. Well done, Yemen. All very true comments. Yep, this drone was most definitely killing, or at least responsible for, the death of several civilians, which would have included women and children. And of course men too. Men's lives matter also. And while we're talking about war and unnecessary bombing, this next article is perfect. From Fox News, it is entitled, U.S. confirms Israel behind last month's airstrike in Iraq against Iranian bases. Wow, this one's a gem too. So officials said Israel was responsible for the bombing of an Iranian weapons depot in Iraq last month. Airstrikes which would mark a significant escalation in the campaign against Tehran's military entrenchment across the Middle East. Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu recently indicated that his country was behind the airstrike that have hit bases and a munitions depot belonging to Iran-backed paramilitary forces operating in Iraq. So it's Iran-backed in one sentence, and the next one is an Iran weapons depot. I mean, these people, they just love to blame Iran for everything. I don't give Iran immunity anywhere, the Israel leader said, adding that the Iranians are trying to establish bases against us everywhere, including Syria, Lebanon, Yemen, and Iraq. So these are probably all places that Israel has bombed, and if you look, Yemen, was it? No, I'm sorry. It was Lebanon recently that came out and said that the airstrikes Israel are performing inside their country are a declaration of war. So Netanyahu goes on to say, we act in many areas against a country that desires to annihilate us. Oh really, Iran desires to annihilate you. That's why you and your Western allies blockade Iran, put sanctions on Iran, that leads to the deaths of tens of thousands of Iranians. Yeah, but Iran is the one trying to annihilate other people. Yeah, that's projecting if I've ever fucking seen it. He said in a response whether Israel operates in Iraq. Of course, I gave the security forces a free hand and the instructions to do what is needed to thwart these plans of Iran. I mean, it's just fucking madness, guys. This is just madness. We need to talk about these things on the street, not just on the internet. Anyway, let's get back to the video. I'm going to move on to the next news article. This one's going to be moving out of the direction of war, and it's going to go back to a story that we covered last week, and that is the Philadelphia police shooter. So this is from Fox News. It is entitled, Philadelphia police shooting suspect worked as federal informant, report says. So this guy, who they were using to try to push gun control like fucking mad savage dogs, actually worked as a federal informant. Now, if that doesn't raise any red flags to you, if that doesn't raise any questions in your head, like, hey, what was the actual nature now of this police shooting? What was really going on there? False flag anybody? I don't know. I'm just going to throw it out there. Just, throwing out the possibility. So let's move on to the next story while we're on the topic of gun control. This one borders on the lines of stupidity and is Parkland students, this is back to the Independent, Parkland students unveil gun violence prevention plan. Policymakers have failed, so survivors are stepping up. This is what's really stupid about this article. So it goes on to read, March for Our Lives, the group formed by the Parkland students in the wake of the mass shooting at their school in February 2018, has unveiled a new plan for gun control. The Peace Plan is a 6-step proposal focused on changing gun laws in America to prevent mass shootings, which continue to ravage the country. See, when they say change gun laws, they mean change gun rights. They want to remove your rights as a human being to defend yourself against enemies foreign and domestic, so which continue to ravage the country. The students call their steps change, with each letter spelling out a goal. Now check this out. So it's change, right? Now check this out. Look at the inconsistency here. This is what the acronym change stands for, right underneath. Those are changing the standards of gun ownership. So that covers the C. Having the rate of gun deaths in 10 years. That stands for the H, okay? Now it goes, holding the gun lobby and industry accountable. It's like, you can't do that. You can't have the first letter of each acronym be the first word in each sentence, and then all of a sudden change it to the last word in the sentence. See, change is C, having is the H, but then the A, the next one, it goes to holding the gun lobby and industry accountable. Why not just actually have an actual acronym, change, changing, having, accountability, and then it goes on back to the first word in the sentence, naming a director of gun violence prevention, and then and generating, I guess that's the G, generating community-based solutions for gun violence. But where's the E? You see what I mean? This thing is like a fucking retard put it together. It's inconsistent and incomplete. Fucking stupidity. Of course, only fucking idiots who would be pushing for gun control in the first place could create such a fucking stupid and inconsistent and incomplete acronym. Let's move on to the next story before my brain fucking develops cancer and then eats itself. This next story goes on the line of madness, and it kind of touches back to the pesticide point made in the first story. This one's from Bloomberg. Bees are dropping dead in Brazil and sending a message to humans. And then it's subtitled, Pesticide use in Brazil sparks concern among environmentalists. See, now this article kind of makes it like, pesticides may be responsible for it. But then there's another article from Sputnik entitled, Harmful Pesticides Cause 500 million Bees to Drop Dead in Brazil. And then this one from CBS, so, we see that it's not just that one. It goes back to this idea that pesticides have nothing to do with it. It just says, more than 500 million bees dropped dead in Brazil within 3 months. It doesn't talk about, actually, I'm sorry. This article from CBS actually does, the title makes no reference to pesticides. But if you read the article in the CBS one, it actually goes to say, more than 500 million bees dropped dead in Brazil within just 3 months, according to Bloomberg. Researchers say the main cause of death is pesticides, which could end up affecting more than the bees. Well, the other article already acknowledged that the pesticides make people stupid. So, I guess we can move on to the next article. I hope you guys took everything that you need to take from those articles. I'm moving on quick for the point of brevity. And this time we're going to visit the forest fires that everybody's talking about. Yes, the lovely forest fires in the Amazon. This one from Business Insider, titled, The Amazon is burning at a rate not seen since we started keeping track. The smoke is reaching cities 2,000 miles away. What an inflammatory title. Inflammatory, inferno, burning forest. I didn't even mean that. So anyway, what an inflammatory title. So first of all, it doesn't really go into the fact that they only started to keep track in 2013. So it's really not that impressive. And second of all, as we're going to see in another article, this whole trending talking point that the smoke is reaching cities 2,000 miles away is actually completely untrue. And you'll see that in a second. So of course, the article, it has these bullet points. Bloomberg likes to do these bullet points for the simple-minded people. The Amazon rainforest is burning at a record rate. The Brazilian Amazon has experienced more than 74,000 fires this year, where last year's total was around 40,000. About 10,000 of the 2019 fires, this is the year 2019, have started in the past couple of weeks. On Monday, the collective smoke plume from the fires darkened the sky more than 2,000 miles away. Once again, this is not true. This is the erroneous talking point. Some of these fires were started by farmers and loggers seeking to use Amazonian land for industrial or agricultural purposes. But once blazes start, hot temperatures and dry conditions because of climate change, or really climate change, you sure it's not because it's their dry season right now, enable the flames to spread farther and faster. So now the Bloomberg, they have several erroneous talking points here. One is the smoke blocking out the sky in a city 2,000 miles away. The other one is climate change. And they're both disproven in other articles. So it goes on, warmer, drier conditions make it easier for flames to spread. Warmer conditions because of climate change. Again, it's just, kind of drilling this point into people's heads. Climate change. It's global warming increasing the likelihood and frequency of wildfires around the world. And then they have this lovely picture, which a bunch of people saw, and it scared everyone, the satellite image of the fires. It's really not that impressive. Satellites can zoom in and get details of very minute things actually on the ground. Okay, so this showing the fire from satellites in space, really not that impressive. It's only impressive to people who are stupid. So now let's look at BBC News. So BBC has this article entitled, Amazon Fires, Record Number Burning in Brazil Rainforest, Space Agency, the Space Agency, the gods in the sky. Yes, we have to appeal to the authority in the sky. It's really no different than a modern day religion. So then it shows this graph, it goes into all the same erroneous talking points, but then it says this. Meanwhile, U.S. Space Agency NASA said that overall fire activity in the Amazon basin was slightly below average this year. Oh, really? So they scare everyone by saying that it's the most amount of fire since records were being kept, but actually it's still below average. So this is actually something that happens. When you have below average fires, see the forest, there's a natural burn cycle. Okay, the forests actually need to catch fire so that new growth can come in, so that new things can grow and stronger and stuff. So when you have a long period of a lack or a below average fire, what's going to happen is you're eventually going to have a year where you're going to have a well above average fire, or well above average fires. So it goes on to say, the agency said that while activity has increased in Amazonas and Rondônia, which I guess are states in Brazil, it had decreased in the states of Mato Grosso and Pará. Names I have trouble pronouncing. Whatever, I'm not Brazilian. What do they speak there? Portuguese? I believe so. So anyway, it goes on to say, it was earlier reported that a blackout on Monday in the city of Sao Paulo, more than 2,700 kilometers away, had been caused by smoke from the Amazon fires. But some meteorologists say the smoke came from major fires burning in Paraguay, which is much closer to the city and not in the Amazon region. Oh my goodness. So there you go. It just kind of destroys the erroneous talking points from before. And so then it goes into why are there fires in the Amazon, and then wildfires occur in the dry season in Brazil, but they are also deliberately started in efforts to illegally deforest land for cattle ranching. And then it goes on to say that INPE, which is he's a government official for Brazil, said it had detected more than 74,000 fires between January and August, the highest number since records began in 2013. So here you go, it lets you know that records have only started to be kept since 2013. It said it had observed more than 9,500 fires since Thursday, mostly in the Amazon region. Now, that language, mostly in the Amazon region, does not mean that it was in the Amazon. Okay? You have to be able to read these things critically, with a critical thinking mind. So then it goes on, it actually says this is what Bolsonaro says. So Mr. Bolsonaro brushed off the latest data, saying it was the season of the queimada, when farmers use fire to clear land. Oh, so there you go. A lot of these fires aren't even occurring in the Amazon. They're actually occurring on farmland. But anyway, let's move on. There's nothing abnormal. Oh yeah, that's right. This is going back to the climate change portion. Okay, before we move on. There is nothing abnormal about the climate this year or the rainfall in the Amazon region, which is just a little below average, NP researcher Alberto Setzer told Reuters. Okay, so there you go. So everything that they said about these Amazon fires is not true. Now, that isn't to say that there aren't issues going on in the Amazon. Okay, there are some serious issues going on in the Amazon. I'm going to show you a couple of news articles that go back a couple of years, starting from January 10th, 2017. In the Amazon, they are, and this is actually in the Amazon, not the Amazon region. In the Amazon, they are actually building dams, and these dams are flooding indigenous lands. They are kind of fucking up the natural flow of the Amazon. Okay, here's one article entitled from BBC and from January 10th, 2017, entitled Amazon Culture Clash Over Brazil's Dams. Okay, and then just talking about the Brazil's dams. You can go read it yourself. But then there's this article from the New York Times. Uncontacted Amazon tribe members reported killed in Brazil. So they're actually Amazon tribe members being killed. In this case, they were killed by gold miners. So gold miners who are probably in the Amazon illegally, actually killing these indigenous people. And then here goes another one from The Guardian from August 16th, 2018, titled Brazil, Murder of Indigenous Leader Highlights Threat to Way of Life. Now this indigenous leader that was murdered, he was actually a hardcore activist. He was actually part of a big movement that was trying to preserve the Amazon and that was trying to protect the indigenous Amazonian tribes and the Amazonian people. So he was killed, okay, and he was a very vocal person. And then there's this recent article from The Intercept from February 16th, 2019. Bolsonaro praised the genocide of indigenous people. Now he's emboldening attackers of Brazil's Amazonian communities. So all that I'm trying to get at here is that there are threats happening in the Amazon. Just because these fires in the Amazon are way overblown and actually mostly false doesn't mean that there aren't issues in the Amazon rainforest. It's that the issues in the Amazon rainforest are more to do with the indigenous people living there than it does have to do with the rainforest itself. So now moving on to some real high-level stupidity. Going back to the Business Insider. This article is titled, Some Colorado Schools Are Getting Buckets and Kitty Litter So Students Can Go to the Bathroom During Lockdowns If There's an Active Shooter. So this is their solution. Don't have teachers that can be armed in a safe way. Get kitty litter and buckets so that kids can be humiliated. So basically, you guys get the point. They got fucking kitty litter and buckets. I don't think I need to read the fucking article. If you guys want to read it, you can read it. It's fucking disgusting though. And apparently they were saying that they got the idea because there was a school lockdown over an alleged shooter, and kids had to go to the bathroom, but they weren't allowed to go to the bathroom. And then it turned out to be a false shooting drill anyway. It was all false. They were basically just treating these kids like animals. And then what's hilarious is the article even acknowledges we're literally treating our children like animals. It's like, yes, you guys are treating fucking people like animals. Instead of allowing them to fucking exercise their human fucking rights, instead of letting teachers exercise their human fucking right in a safe way, there can be safe ways to do this, you treat them like fucking animals. You treat them like subhumans who don't fucking deserve or who haven't proven themselves capable of using very simple fucking tools. The next bit of madness, or the next bit of total stupidity, also comes from the Business Insider, and it is an article entitled, YouTube Criticized After Removing Videos of Robots Fighting for Showing, quote, the deliberate infliction of animal suffering. So pretty much there's these robot fights. They're called like battle bots. There's a show on TV about it. They're fucking awesome. I used to watch it when I was a kid. Then the show disappeared, and then I recently rediscovered the show. I fucking love the show. Nothing better than some fucking robot fighting mayhem. Some real ultra violence, but robot style, so it's safe, you know? Nobody's getting hurt. But YouTube actually deleted these videos, and they claimed it's because they were showing animals suffering. Now, what freaks me out about this is it must have been Google's AI doing this. So is this a sign that Google's artificial intelligence, or Google, YouTube's artificial intelligence, whatever, the same company, is this a sign that their artificial intelligence is becoming sentient to the point where it sees robots as other living beings, like it's kind of seeing itself as a living being? You know, so thus it sees robots, which are like itself, as animals, or as living things. You guys get what I'm fucking saying, right? I can't really put it into words. I can't articulate it too well. But I'm sure you guys understand what I'm saying. I mean, this should raise some real fucking red flags as to how the AI flagged this. What caused it to perceive these obvious fucking robots as animals? To show this as animal suffering. This fucking AI was empathizing with robots because it itself is a fucking robot. I mean, it's really, I mean, this shit should be fucking really re-examined. People need to really examine this and not just brush it off as like YouTube censorship insanity. This is fucking madness right here. But fortunately, they were manually reviewed, and then the videos were put back online, and then everyone shut up about it. Everyone but me. I'm a crazy conspiracy theorist who's seeing a bigger picture there. Hopefully you guys are seeing the bigger picture too. Moving on to the story before our last story, which is a total bit of stupidity. This is from the New York Daily News. Pal of slain rapper Nipsey Hussle shot on New York City street. Refuses to help cops identify shooter before dying. Now this is why there's such high crimes in a lot of black neighborhoods, or a lot of neighborhoods who have this kind of culture, this kind of anti-police culture. I don't even want to say black neighborhoods because white people have anti-police culture, Spanish people have anti-police culture. Any culture that has like this anti-police bent to it, which a lot of them should, but when it goes this far, it's just borderlines on stupidity. You were just shot by somebody and you're dying. You should actually report that to the authorities, or at least try to help the authorities before you die locate these murderers so that they don't go and murder somebody else. And this is precisely why these anti-police communities just are in a perpetual downward spiral. Because of fucking attitudes, because of stupid fucking attitudes like this. So then the last stupid article to cover comes from Fox News again. This one is Miami Dolphins player responds to coach playing Jay-Z at practice amid controversy over rapper's NFL deal. So, already, remember last week I believe we talked about Jay-Z being brought into the NFL to try to boost their ratings. It's already causing controversy. It's so fucking stupid. Pretty much this NFL player, he doesn't like Jay-Z. He's got a problem with Jay-Z. So what he does is he plays a rapper's music in the locker room that has beef with Jay-Z. So it's like, it's already the stupidity, this kind of fucking doggy, I don't even know what kind of culture to call it. It's just fucking stupid culture, this thug culture, this, oh, you're my enemy culture instead of you're my brother culture. This kind of shit is already seeping into the NFL, this kind of drama. Maybe it's total drama. Maybe it's just a way to sell newspapers, which it probably is. That's probably what it is. It's like, oh yeah, let's get this fucking drama culture in here. And these guys can have these petty little fights, or these petty little music fights, these music battles in the locker room, and then we can fucking sell papers. God damn it. This is, I mean, I'm going to make a video on analyzing capitalism. This is my issue with capitalism, is it's really the state in which capital is put above everything else. People will do anything for fucking money. Yeah, it's good, you know, things flourish, certain things flourish, but then there's this real dark side of it, where you have all kinds of dumb shit that people do just to make money. These newspapers, they don't give a fuck about anything virtuous, and I'm not trying to virtue signal here, like a fucking leftist or an SJW, I'm just stating facts. These guys care, they have no integrity. The only thing that they care about is money. And the same thing you find with a lot of YouTubers. The only thing they fucking care about is money, and thus they only report on things and they only talk about things. They have their narrative censored in a way so that it can guarantee them future income. Instead of going out there and talking about the things that need to be talked about, instead of using this very powerful medium to get very powerful messages across, they only use it to fucking fill their pockets with cash. And it's fucking pathetic. But anyway, I'm sure very few people have even made it this far into the video, so I'm just talking to myself at this point. I have nothing else to say, so I shall see you all in the next video.